all, I think your analysis was very straight line. History doesn't run in a straight line.
Kid, you cannot tell your neighbor he is stealing ducks when you are stealing frogs.
As High Commissioner, I was wrong. As Charandas Prasad, I reacted naturally how any person would have.
I did not come here for that kind of abuse. I did not come here for that kind of abuse. If you're going to go along that road, I'll walk off.
But it's all okay once they're talking. If they were talking, I could not have been here today.
You got ADHD.
I got that thing.
No, calm down.
I think I've done enough in terms of taking our team out of trouble from losing.
Come on, Lou Taylor. That's good. I'm reading the script now, and the first person that comes to my mind to play a detective,
Yes,
but
okay,
an
he's good too.
erratic
Mikhail
detective,
Rodriguez.
Mikhail Rodriguez.
Why an African slap an Indian? Why a man and slap a woman? Look, how you deal with that? You deal with that.
We must encourage platforms like this because it brings together different people and allows for discussions to take place in our country on a multiplicity of fundamental issues.
Gildarie, you apologizing for something you think I did is wrong. I don't want you to do that, and you should not have done that. Hello there, wherever you are, based on time zones, different time zones in the world. Good evening, good night, good afternoon, good morning. This is the Gildarie Freddie Kissoon show. We come to you live. You can see us live if you take your smartphone or you tune in to Smart TV and go to Guyanese Critic Facebook page or type in TBN Guyana and on YouTube, and you will see the program live. This evening is a special program because of the historical contribution in a wide variety of endeavors by a person who is undoubtedly an icon. I've been doing television programs since the 90s. I did Candid with my co-host Bibi Narain, and then I did the Freddie Kissoon Notebook. And it's customary journalistic practice that you prepare your introduction to your guests. You read a little bit about your guests. For the first time in decades, in preparing the introduction to my guest, I just gave up this afternoon. I'm reading this man's curriculum vitae, and it's longer than the Essequibo River. The sheer volume of this man's contribution to Guyana. You know, it is said that not in a lifetime we will see another Rohan Kanai, another Shivnarayan Chandrapal, Chedi Jagan, Forbes Burnham, Martin Carter, Walter Rodney, Isu Prasad. Not in a long time from now will we see another person with those kinds of achievements as our guest this evening. I'm suggesting to you, and I'm putting it out to you, when you read the phenomenal involvement of this gentleman in Guyana's and Caribbean social, academic, intellectual life, this is one Guyanese that deserves Guyana's highest honor, the Order of Excellence. And I have no question in my mind that any of our lawmaker or policymaker look at this man's contribution to Guyana from 1965 to 2023. He's just recently participated in the compilation of the biography of one of the West Indian Guyanese great cricketer, Joe Solomon. And he is still doing a weekly column. And a few weeks ago, he celebrated his 90th birthday. Our guest this evening is without a doubt one of the outstanding icons this country has produced, the inimitable Ian McDonald. Mr. McDonald, happy birthday.
Thank you very much, Freddie, if I may call you that.
Yes.
It's very kind of you. Your words are overwhelmingly flattering, and I thank you for them, of course. But of course, within those words, there are many, many ups and downs, and I would not claim for myself that I'm an icon. I've worked hard, I've enjoyed what I've done, and I hope I've made a contribution.
Thanks. As usual, our co-host Leonard Gildarie is with us this evening, and this evening is Leonard Gildarie's night. Leonard Gildarie is pretty young in relation to both Mr. McDonald and myself. And when 20 years from now, when he looks back at his journalistic career, he would have known, he would have seen that he's interviewed one of the great minds, one of the great achievers that was part of Guyana. So I'll hand you over to Leonard Gildarie.
Thank you, dear Freddie and Mr. McDonald. Welcome. I remember, well, before I start there, I couldn't help but sitting and thinking, there's a similarity between all three of us. Sometimes, some way or the other, we are columnists of newspapers in Guyana. Me by accident, and I think you guys by design. But I think this is where the similarity ends for me, because you guys are just on a level. I think Mr. McDonald, chatting before the show and listening to what the various areas that he would have been involved in, I can't even begin. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is some of the realities we got to live with. There are always going to be people within our midst who are going to stand head and shoulders above us. And we have to recognize, we have to give thanks for having them in our midst, because the contributions that they would have made, whether it is to the arguments, to the debates, which all lead to the development of this country, it is something that we have to pay attention to. I remembered, Mr. McDonald said that he literally grew up in the sugar estate via Gaisuko, and spent many of his years there as a marketing, director or official within Gaisuko there, gaining tremendous experience. I would have been seeing some of the life. I hope that he write a book about it, because I grew up in Enmore, and while there, I remember something happened to me that really got me to love books. And when I see the number of books that you have gotten or penned and poems, books of poems that you've written, I don't know what to say. I'm speechless. But I was given a book by the name of My Book of Bible Stories by my uncle. He came to Enmore and he says, "Here, take this." And that was one of my first. That's how I fell in love with reading, and it was the Bible, but a lot of it in pictures, and I was mesmerized by those pictures that was in the book, and I was reading it, and there was so many things in the Bible that really contradicts that the words, the big words, that I had to go and check the dictionary and see what it really meant and try to have an understanding in my little small mind. But I realized then that I really wanted to continue reading, and it has put me in a place where, unfortunately, the last couple of years I haven't read the kind of books that I really wanted to. It is on my bucket list, and I'm going to continue to do that. Well, Mr. McDonald, I'm going to tell you something. I've read some columns in the Starbuck News over the years, and I know that you would have been very instrumental in forming opinions like Freddie Kissoon in this country. Your own experiences across the Caribbean was something that we paid very close attention to. Well, we're going to talk a little bit that, because having heard what you would have been involved in, not only in sports of captains of teams representing Guyana, but on the public side, being in commissions that represented Guyana, the Caribbean, So your contribution is not just, you cannot talk about Ian McDonald and say, well, he is very limited to writing books. It isn't that. It is right what Freddie has said. It is across the entire thing. I can't think of anybody, just looking and at your contribution and what you would have written, I can't think of anybody that I would say who's really made a contribution of this sort in Guyana, not only in the literary side of things, but in the business life and in the public life. Freddie Kissoon, back to you. I have a lot of things to say to Mr. McDonald.
If my operator can hear me, but before I proceed to that, don't go away. We have a surprise for you. We're going to ask Mrs. McDonald to sit by my side, and I'm going to read 2 poems that from a book her husband wrote. Poems to Mary. This is one of Ian MacDonald's book. One of the 27 books Ian MacDonald authored or edited. If my operator can hear me, if he can put up, here is, now those, what you're seeing on the screen, on the right are the 27 books Mr. MacDonald either authored or edited. On the left are the books about Mr. MacDonald's family. Missing from that repertoire, missing from that phenomenal repertoire, is Mr. MacDonald's other side, the intellectual side. He was part of the West Indian Commission looking into the future of CARICOM, and he penned, or he authored a contribution to that effort. There is so many things, as I said before, we're not going to get in the hour of discussion. So let's go right into the man of the moment. Let's go right into one of Guyana's great personalities, great citizens. He said he don't consider himself an icon. If you take a poll and you ask people to name someone who deserves the order of excellence, it will be the man who contributed 6 to 7 years to Guyana and still contributed. Mr. MacDonald, tell us, the floor is yours. Tell the young people of Guyana who you are or what you have achieved. And don't stop, just go on. The water is there for you to drink when you get thirsty.
Thank you very much, Freddie, and thank you very much, Mr. Gildarie. I'm very delighted to be on your show, and I heard these very kind words. When I look back on my life, I realize that it's been very full, yes, and I've enjoyed it all. And I'm still enjoying it very much, and I hope still contributing. But when I look back, I would divide my life into, I can put that into 4 parts easily. 1, my sporting life. I've always loved sport. Sport has always been very important to me. I've always played it, well, not always, but I played it from the age of 12 till 52 competitively in tennis. And I captained Cambridge, I captained Guyana, I captained the West Indies at tennis. I also played squash for Guyana, and also cricket. Tennis I played, cricket I really loved. And I've known great cricketers, I've known the game, I've loved the game, I've followed the game, I've written about the game. And I love sport as a whole. That's been a big part of my life, and I think I've made a contribution there. Another part of my life has been the sugar industry. What wonderful times I had in the sugar industry. 1955, as Freddie says, to 1999, I was in Gaisuku, or Booker Sugar Estates at first, then Gaisuku. Then after that, I was 7 years as CEO of the Sugar Association of the Caribbean. So I've been in sugar 52 years. In Guyana sugar for a little less than that, just under 50 years. But the times I had in sugar, we had marvelous times. We felt we were in a revolution. We were not only pushing sugar production up to a total of 370,000 tons once, but we were modernizing the factories. We were getting somewhere. We were aiming at 500,000 tons of sugar. In the same time, we were revolutionizing the lives of sugar workers. I remember going to work every day and feeling so heartened that this was a job that was worth doing. we were transforming people's lives. And it was wonderful working in the sugar industry. It really was. That was a big part of my life. Another part of my life, all my life, has been writing. Writing, mainly poetry, but other books too. As Freddie says, I think I've probably been involved in about 27, 30 books. And also my family, I've helped my family, and they've produced a lot of books as well. So writing has been a big part of my life since I was a schoolboy, and it's always been so. And then there's a public side of my life. I never forget those months and over a year that with Sonny Ramphal and Rex Nettleford and the others on the West Indian Commission. That was a wonderful period in my life. And with P.J. Patterson and McIntyre, when we did the cricket work about 20 years after that, going around the West Indies, working on those commissions, helping writing their reports, that was wonderful. These parts of my life have all come together, I realize. And you know, the thing is, Freddie, you say that I'm an icon, but in all these areas, I met people that were greater than myself, that I could look up to and learn from. People in sugar, some great people in sugar, from Jack Campbell, all the great people, Yusufa Sword, Harold Davis, all the people, Dr. Harry Evans. People don't know about Dr. Harry Evans, but he was the greatest sugar scientist in Guyana. He made an enormous contribution to sugar, not only here, but internationally. But the people in sugar that I've known, great people, greater than me. Then in sport, I've known people greater than me. Oh God, the cricketers that I've met, you know, the Rohan Kanais and Joe Solomons and that great man that came here from Barbados, Walcott, and taught us so much and coached so well. All these people in writing, Arthur Seymour, one of the greatest Guyanese has ever been in writing, and other people, other writers. I've known them all. And there, Dennis Williams, and then in the arts, Dennis Williams, all these people. I mean, when I think how much I've learnt from them, they were icons. I learnt from them. But in all these areas of my life, sport, sugar, writing and literature, my public side of my life, I have learnt from people greater than myself. Freddie, I've learnt a lot. I hope I've contributed something.
I understand your modesty, but you hope you have contributed with more than 27 book sales. But I'd like to tell our viewers, because of the young population we have in Guyana, right to the top of this page here, look, my fingers on it, my fingers on this book here. In 1969, this book was penned. This book was written. And from 1969 onward, now here is a phenomenal achievement of Ian McDonald that will not be easily matched. In 1969, Mr. McDonald produced a book, and that book has been in print since 1969. I did it as required reading in my course in UG. The course was Caribbean Studies. It is required reading for the CXC students around the Caribbean, and it has been made into a BBC film. It is one of the greatest books written in the Caribbean by a Caribbean author. The name of it is The Hummingbird Tree. A critical, tragic, and philosophical look at race and class in a colonial polity. Please, it is still available at Austin Bookstore. You can get it at Amazon. It's one of the great Guyanese books you should read, The Hummingbird Tree. Now, Mr. McDonald, tell us about The Hummingbird Tree. When you read the book and you know who it's written by, there are flashes of autobiographical snippets.
Yes, that's true. But Freddie, could I give you and your viewers a little bit of information about the hummingbird tree?
Go ahead.
Because I don't think it's generally known. I began to write the hummingbird tree when I was in sixth form at Queen's Royal College in Trinidad. I continued writing it when I was at Cambridge University. That was in 51 to 55. I finished it when I came to Guyana. I finished it around 56, 57. And I put it away in a drawer. And I forgot about it for 10 years. And one day, 10 years later, about 1967, 68, I found it and I read it and I said, to myself, this is quite good. I showed it to a friend who said, yes, this is a good book. I know an agent in London and I'm going to send it there. He sent it. The agent liked it. Heinemann liked it. And it was published. But I'll tell you something about it. The title, which is now quite famous, as you say, it's still in print, people mentioning it all the time. The one word Heinemann said to me, they'd sent it to their readers and they did not want to change one word that I'd written. The only word they want changed was the title. And I had the title of the book, and not many people will know this, as The Marbleurs, Marbleus, which was the name of a butterfly that we used to hunt in Trinidad. Heinemann said, no, people will not know what the marbleurs mean, find another title. And I found this other title, The Hummingbird Tree. So that's a story about it. It is, you're very right, it is flashes of autobiographical stuff in there, but it is not an autobiography. For instance, my parents, the parents of the boy in Hummingbird Tree, of the white boy in Hummingbird Tree, are not my parents. People make the common mistake of thinking, well, that's what Ian's parents were. My parents, as depicted in the book, were not how my parents were, so that was not autobiographical. Jaylin, the girl, was more than one of the Indian girls that I met. Keza, the boy, is the most lifelike character in that book. When I say lifelike, written from life. So that book, you're quite right, was semi-autobiographical, and I still think that it obviously has something, because people still people come to me about it and tell me about it and send me messages about it. So as you say, it's still very much in print, and I'm pleased about that. And I'm proud of that book. That is a good book. Are there any particular questions you want to ask me about it? Because it's a book now that has entered the pantheon. It's a long time for a book to be in print, as you say, 69. That's 50. It's over 50 years now, and it's still available and still being read. And I've always said that if I write a poem that is written, is read and appreciated and makes an impression 100 years from now, Freddie, that is fame enough. One poem, 100 years from now, if somebody reads it.
Well, The Hummingbird Tree was made into a film, but let's get Gildarie into the frame, because, as I said before, when Gildarie looks back at this program 15, 20 years from now, I'm sure he's going to feel satisfied that his career in journalism was worth it. So I leave Gildarie to have an exchange with.
Well, the thing is, Freddie, what has jumped out, I don't know a lot of folks or I've never met a lot of folks who has a book which is a must-read for CSEC and those kind of things. I haven't met a lot of people who has written books.
27 books.
Yeah. I'm going to come to that too, but who's written books and actually ended up recognized across the world. I haven't really had the opportunity. The problem that I have here, and I like to be the devil's advocate at times, is that and I'm going to put Mr. McDonald on the spot here. We look at 30 books here, and I'm sure they're really, really great books. The problem that we have here, do you regret that we, as a country, that we have not done enough to push our writers, to give them how you would say it, a moment under the spotlight so they could be able to be known? Are we doing enough? Have we failed our writers and our artists?
I mean, that's obviously a very big question and a very good question, a very deep question. I think most societies, in the view of the writers themselves, the young writers coming up, never do enough for them. In Guyana's case, I think right now, one of the things that young writers are definitely missing is an outlet for their work. I remember when I was involved with Arthur Seymour, who was the great editor, a great man, great literary man, and he was editor of Kike Overall. And when I met Arthur, I used to have long discussions with him, and Kike Overall had been discontinued, and we decided to revive it. And I remember very well when we revived Kike Overall that it was an outlet for young writers in Guyana. We got hundreds and hundreds of people putting in their entries. At least it was an opportunity for them to write in, and they felt that they had a chance of being. We couldn't publish everything, of course, but we at least published some of them, and it was an outlet which was known. I think it's a great pity. I don't think there's a magazine now in Guyana which caters for the young people. I know people will say, well, people don't read books anymore. Is there a way on television, or is there on social media? I don't know. I don't know about that side of things. But I feel that young writers in Guyana need an outlet for their work. It might be that newspapers could help a bit more. It might be that a revival of a magazine like Kike Overall is part of the answer. Something, I think, like that would be a very, very good thing for young writers. I'm sure, like in all generations, there are writers out there, young writers of great promise. I know there was one young man at the recent Guyana Prize Awards who I think won the prize for poetry, and also won the prize for most promising young writer. He obviously is going to be a great writer. There have been young writers all along. I remember reading young Royal Johnson's first works when he won a Guyana Prize about 10, 15 years ago. I mean, Royal Johnson was a great writer. I hope he's still writing, I don't know. But yes, Guyana has always produced good and great writers. I think the young writers of today need an outlet. They need to be able to say, I've published something. Here I am in a magazine. Or perhaps we need again, perhaps a publishing house. I don't know. But they need more outlet.
I wanted to really ask, because the question that begs here, is this area here in Guyana on the threat? Are we going to see a resurgence like what you would have had? I remember, Freddie, and this is something that really, really hurts me. I remember the National Library would have that bookmobile going out there. I remember we could count on our fingers in Guyana how many bookstores. There was one on Regent Street, I remember. I think on Church Street there's Austin's bookstore. You could count on your fingers. We could also draw a parallel to the rest of the world. The importance of bookshops. If you want to present somebody, let me ask you guys out there, how many of you have presented somebody for a birthday a gift with a book lately? Can you recall?
Well,
is it something that's happening?
Yeah, sure.
One thing I did not mention, but you raise it, I think there is need for more bookshops. But I don't know, these things are all commercial. I mean, you can't open a bookshop
I understand.
Unless you're going to make money. Let's be frank. But the only bookstore I really know about in Georgia, I have to be honest, is Austin's. And before there used to be more than that. I think Austin's is still a very good bookstore. It still has quite a wide range of books. I don't think it has a I'm not sure about its wide range of Guyanese and West Indian books. I'm not sure about that. But definitely having more than one bookstore in Georgetown and then in the outlying areas is certainly a good thing. But you know, I'm not so sure about these library things, because I recently have been told about libraries being opened, being launched at schools and so on, which I think very encouraging. And when they are, the school children really love it. So let us get more books into schools. Let us get schools, every school, to have a library, and an area where the children can go and read their books and borrow their books. Let us have that in the schools. Very, very important.
Interesting.
If my operator is listening, can you put back the voluminous production of Mr. McDonald on my right? Now let me go through. I have the actual thing here, and I want to go through poetry, because Mr. McDonald, you let me see if I'm exaggerating. After Carter, I would think you right probably next to Carter. You've written some fantastic poetry. Now look at some of the books there on your right. There is the one, They Came in Ships, an anthology of Indo-Guyanese poetry. That put my hand in. That's the second one on top of your right. Then there is Ian McDonald, New and Collected Poems. That is what I want to talk about. And if you're listening, the love of Mr. McDonald's life, Mary, his wife, I will ask her to sit next to her husband, and I will read 2 poems from Mr. McDonald's book in dedication to her. I will tell you why I have to read it. She doesn't want to read it, but you have a nice voice, Mr. McDonald. Please read some poetry for us.
Well, I don't know how much time you have, but I'll read a...
no, we have time. We have time.
I can...
Lots of time.
I can read one that... I can read one that I don't think I've ever read before. I don't... my wife will tell me if I have. I don't think I have. But it's when I was in the sugar industry, one of the things that I got involved with sometimes was the whole transformation of sugar workers' lives. And that involved partly getting sugar workers out of the lodges, where they were very badly housed, into new housing settlements. And I remember I used to go with a team to interview people in the lodges and just get their information so when they moved. And I remember meeting some incredible characters. And this particular poem was a recent poem. It's my latest book, which is Not Quite Without a Moon.
Can be just Not Quite Without a Moon, the latest publication.
Which is on basically for my 90th birthday, so you can see I'm still writing poetry.
Well, you must have been 8 or 9 when you quartered Joe Solomon and the Spirit of
Well, no, but remember that's Clem C. Tran's book. I just contributed a few stories and so on.
Well, you participated in it.
Yes.
And that must have been when you were 88, 89.
Yeah.
Now, this is his latest work, penned when he was nearing 90, now 90. Not Quite Without a Moon, and he will read his favorite poem from
one
this
of my
book.
favorites.
One
of the poems that is.
The calm was yours.
Will be interesting.
The calm was yours, Mr. McDonald.
Can I look down to read them?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. No, this is, as I say about this, one about the ladies, one of the women that we met. I'll read it. It's called Resettlement. We visit this older lady, pillow breasts, thick hair, mostly gray and black, in her little shack. Yes, shack, though she keeps it well and neat. Small room and a smaller kitchen space. Calm-eyed, unagitated, she smiled a lot. She's sorry she has only one sweet drink to offer 2 of us. She's widowed. her husband had been very good. She has a small allotment for her use elsewhere, mostly herbs she used and sold and gave away. A few chickens in a pen next door. People were kind, they helped. She could manage life. She minded little children for people doing work. She hugged a few who scampered around us. People said she intervened in quarrels when asked. She had 100 remedies, good reasoning as well. Auntie Daegu, distress nobody. She always find a way. She makes provision for herself. She is happy with her lot in life. She binds wounds and has solutions. Neighbors respect her far and wide. She gathers little children kindly round her. Put this case aside. How does one resettle love?
We've got time. So if there's anything,
well,
there's a quibble.
There is one. There's one. This one, the Guyana Prize.
And which won the Guyana Prize? We need to tell before we go to Gildarie, after Mr. McDonald will finish with this. We need to tell people that Mr. McDonald has won the Guyana Prize 3 times. Mr. McDonald, whatever you want to say, then
this one, I think, Freddie and Mr. Gildarie, this one I think is really an interesting one because it was written 30 years ago, and it was written about climate change, which wasn't a big issue. This was 30 years ago, and I wrote it when they assassinated Chico Mendes. I don't know if either of you remember him. He was a great Brazilian who fought against the people that wanted to destroy the Amazon forest in order to get farming and commercialize it. And they assassinated him. And when they assassinated him, I wrote this poem in his honor 30 years ago. And I think it is still very relevant now. It's certainly relevant about Brazil, who have gone on destroying their forests. It's not relevant. Guyana has done an extremely good job at protecting our own forests, thank God, because when I wrote this poem, one of the things I feared was that what was happening in the Amazon forest in Brazil would happen in Guyana. Mm-hmm. I feared it at the time when I wrote this poem. In the case of Guyana, thank God that fear has not been borne out, but in Brazil it has. Let me read it. It's called "The Sun Parrots Are Late This Year." The great forests of the world are burning down. Far away in Amazon they burn. Far beyond our eyes the trees are cut and cleared and heaped and fired. Ashes fill the rivers for miles and miles. The rivers are stained with the blood of mighty trees. Great rivers are brothers of great forests, and immense clouds shadowing the rose-lit waters are cousins of this tribe of the earth gods. Under the ancient watch of the stars, all should be secure and beautiful forever. Dwarfing man, generation after generation after generation, inspiring man, feeding him with dreams and strength. But over there it is not so. Man is giant, and the forest dwindles. It will soon be nothing, shrubs sprouting untidily in scorched black earth. The sun will burn the earth before now shadowed for 100,000 years, dark and dripping, hiding jeweled insects and thick-veined plants, blue-black orchids with white hearts, red macaws, the green lace of ferns, gold butterflies, opal snakes. Everything shrivels and dust begins to blow. It is as if acid was poured on this silken land. It is far from here now, but it is coming nearer. Those who love forests also are cut down. This month, this year, we may not suffer. The brutal way things are, it will come. Already the cloud patterns are different each year. The winds blow from new directions. The rain comes earlier, beats down harder, or it is dry when the pastures thirst. In this dark, overarching Essequibo forest, I walk near the shining river in the green paths, cool and green as melons laid in running streams. I cannot imagine all the forests going down, the great black hogs not snouting for the pulp of fruit, all this beauty and power and shining life gone. But in far once emerald Amazon, the forest dies by fire fiercer than bright axes. The roar of the wind in trees is sweet, reassuring. The heavens stretch far and bright above the loneliness of mist-shrouded forest trails. And there is such a feel of softness in the evening air. Can it be that all of this will go, leaving the clean, boned land? I wonder if my children's children come this way, will see the great forest spread green and tall and far, as it spreads now far and green for me. Is it my imagination that the days are furnace hot, the sun parrots are late or not come at all this year? Now that poem was written 30 years ago, and it is still relevant today. Thank God we have protected our forests in Guyana very well, I think, very well indeed. In Brazil, it is still a struggle that the new president is going to have there to protect them. But it's interesting because this poem has gone far and wide. At the latest climate conference in Glasgow, someone took it with him and took it on a long ride across Britain, ended in Glasgow, and he read this poem in front of the assembled, where they had the assembly of the Glasgow Conference on Climate Change. So it still has relevance.
Mr. McDonald, have you received from any government of Guyana, administration in Guyana, any award?
Oh, yes, I'm very proud of my AA, my Golden Arrow of Achievement, which I received in 1986. Very, very proud of that, as I am very proud of my fellowship of the Royal Society of Literature in Britain, which I was awarded after winning one of their literary prizes for the hummingbird tree, actually.
So 90 years old, here was a story here. Ian McDonald, the card, I'm looking at the book here, Not Quite Without a Moon. And at the back here it says Ian McDonald was born in Trinidad, and it's quite interesting. He came to Guyana, made so much contribution, and he has written almost 30 books. Here's a problem, not a problem. I want to point out something that is so, with his life, that is so very important. There is going to be people who are going to always be followers, and they're going to be leaders. How many of us would get up and we have a 9-to-5 job and we go home and we go through the routine, get up in the morning, brush our teeth, we go to work, we come home, eat dinner, watch some TV, go to bed. We do that 5 days a week. And then there's some of us who would be involved in writing books, captain teams, sport teams within the country. Not only that, sat as a marketing director of the Guyana Sugar Corporation. Captain a team, different teams within representing Guyana. And we could go on, and he's been recognized. How many of us could say that we've written a book that is a required read for CXC? How could we push our boundaries within this country? And it's important that we ask this question because Freddie, Mr. McDonald, we are at a crossroad within our country, and I've always said it, and I know that I would take some licks for it, but I can't sit here and allow our people to just be very comfortable. They have to raise the bar, and I think if it is that we want to raise the bar, you got to have more of the McDonald's in this country to be able to push themselves to the limits, and I think he enjoyed every aspect of it. It wasn't work. It became a love, and he would have delved into it. Work, in the evening I sit down and I do what I love. He wrote books. Wrote books. I suspected that that's what he did. He didn't have to tell me that.
But I want Freddie mentioned it before, and I'd be glad if she could come up, because the person that's been inspired me, I have to tell you, Gildarie, throughout all this has been my wife, Mary. And for over 40 years, she has been my inspiration. She always tells me when I tell her that, oh, no, what nonsense. No, but that is absolutely true. She has been a great strength to me, a great inspiration. And we discuss so many things in life, and she has always been there for me and supported me in whatever I've done, whatever I've achieved.
Freddie, you know what's remarkable here?
We're going to have Mary up. This is Mr. McDonald's book for his wife, Poems to Mary. And Mary's going to come and sit by Mr. McDonald's side. And I think genetically, Mary and I are related. I think we are third cousins, and I'm being serious here. So I'm going to ask her to sit between me and her husband. Gildarie, unfortunately, will be excluded. And I'm going to read two poems. One, both poems have emotional implications for the McDonald's. But before that, there is a question that every journalist should ask a phenomenal achiever like Ian McDonald. Today would be 6 to 7 years Mr. McDonald have been contributing to the totality of life in Guyana. He writes a weekly column, which I think is one of the most read columns in the Caribbean. And he has helped in the compilation of the biography of Joe Solomon, and then the book that was done this year. Good. So 55 years in the sugar industry, so many years in sports. There are two questions I'd like to ask Mr. McDonald before his wife comes in front of the camera. What has been the lowest point in your life, and what has been the highest point?
That's a very, very good point. One has low points in one's life. I would have said that, after my first marriage went wrong, went disastrously wrong, that was a very low point. Thank God, some years after that, and I rather drifted for a while. Some years after that, I met Mary, and as I say, she righted the boat, there's no doubt about it. And ever since then, it's been a high point, I would have said. I want to say one thing, about this. People keep saying about 90. It was a great German poet and philosopher, and Freddie, and both you will know him, Goethe, who said, in every man's life, and both of you should remember this, in every man's life, each decade has its own fortunes, its own dreams, and its own hopes. And I look upon my 90s, which have now started, as yet another decade. Every decade has had its own fortunes, its own dreams, and its own hopes. The 90s is no less a decade. It has its own dreams and hopes. There are things to do. I have many, many, many unpublished poems. I have many more poems to write. I just wrote a poem called Morton, which I'm quite, about a friend of mine some years ago, which I'm quite proud of. So there's always work to do. And both of you should always remember it. As Goethe said, in every man's life, each decade has its hopes, its fortunes, and its dreams. And we must always remember that. There's always good work to be done. There's always things to look forward to.
What wisdom.
For those of you who are looking at us and the great Ian McDonald, we will ask his wife to come up and face the camera. We asked her and she obliged. So she's going to sit between me and her husband.
Shall I go up one?
So you go up a little bit there.
Yeah.
This is her chair. I will take.
I don't want
no, she says there. Gildarie, you will. She comes here.
Okay.
And I will take the.
I never expected this.
Ladies and gentlemen,
the rose among the thorns. The rose among the thorns.
This is the lady that has contributed to the iconic status of Ian McDonald.
Very much so.
Very much so. Now, Mary doesn't want to read two poems from here, two very important poems, because one, it makes her emotional. Secondly, it also makes her husband emotional. I'm going to read River Dancer, which has emotional implications for Mr. McDonald. That's because of his cancer at the time, and it reminds him of that. So let me see if I could imitate the great Ian MacDonald in reciting his poetry. I don't think I could ever fill his shoes, but a man's got to do what a man's got to do. Night is cold, she has gone a while. The white smoke of age gets in my eyes, but still I see her as she always was. Young and fearless, and I in love with her. Dirt, poor made childhood, bare as bones, made her strong, she enriches me. I see her brushing her long hair. All these years I have seen that. And tears come to my eyes, so young again, calling out to me her joy in creation. A sudden decoration of orchids on the old tree, a bank of vegetables, and the table greens. So where I got the sweet herbs now. See where I got the sweet herbs now. When I had cancer, 50 days hard treatment, half my strength gone, not much left to love. Every day, every single day, she was by my side. There was a picture of her dancing by the river, turning to smile at me, hair swaying past her waist. That's River Dancer. Ian MacDonald wrote that for his wife, Mary. That's beautiful Mary that Ian MacDonald married more than how many years ago?
About 40 years ago.
40 years.
40 years ago. Now, here is one that has personal implications for Mary herself. It's about where we come from, and we always reflect on where we come from. So here is a poem written by Ian. First time I've called you Ian on the program. For his wife. My hands is trembling because it's very cold in here, but I think I'll hot up reading this poem here. The name is The Matchbox. A small girl, smaller than her age in years, eyes astonished at the windows ablaze. The star-strewn tree, gifts glittering, hall of joy, hall of toys. Doll so beautiful, dressed in lovely lace. Heaven fall of pleasure moves her hand, touches the cold and bitter glass. In the other, a little box is scotch, matchbox painted red. Her mother made for her, tied with gold thread. To make it special, it is what she had, and she'll get nothing more except this visit to the shining window in the night. Now beneath our tree, full garlanded and lit, the grandchildren play in tangled toil and glory. Beribboned merchandise stuffed in Santa socks, their shining eyes darting here and there. What they love best, they hardly know. Happy in the rubbish of bright wrappings, discarded boxes. What else? What else to open? On this enchanted day, what else to see? Faded picture of a solemn girl, matchbox. You just can't see the golden thread, held tight against her breast. Preserved all fading Christmases long ago. I don't know if she wants to say what this poem is about, but it's about the poverty that she was born in. This program tonight is going to be the first time Mistress MacDonald has faced the camera. Isn't that so?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for gracing us with your presence. I don't think I'm going to call you Mrs. MacDonald now. Mary, what is Matchbox about?
Well, when we were very young, we came from a very poor home. There were 9 of us, and things were very, very tough in our life. And my mother did her best to keep us happy, and so I found great joy in this little matchbox that she would give me, and it was my toy. I never owned a doll when I was growing up. I told my husband we never had toys because there were so many of us, and all we could have afford was food on the table, and my mother trying to educate us to have a good education. So toys was something that we never received. We used to get help from the church as we were growing up, the Catholic Church. They would come and bring, rather than toys, they would bring exercise books and pencils for us as gifts, as Christmas gifts. But that is about it. I told my children, I said, you're very lucky, because we tried to give them as much as we can, but at the same time, they must know the value of getting toys and sharing with other people. So
Well, the
we
thing
had a
is-
rough life. I had a rough life.
But I have to tell you, Freddie, that there's
My mother was good.
I have a picture of Mary
We have it.
with the matchbox, which moves me every time I look at it, and I look at it nearly every
It's
day.
not there.
It's not in the
Which she
book.
holds near to her. No, it isn't in the book, but she holds it near to her. And this matchbox meant more to her than any toy could ever meant to a child that has hundreds of toys. This matchbox, and it always moves me very much to think of it, and think of it now when we see our grandchildren with
Yeah,
all the toys they have,
yeah.
and we always tell them. And I must say they listen to us, and they listen to the tale, and it's something that we try and instill in them, that it's not. They're lucky. They're lucky. My wife came from a hard life, and full credit to her mother, and full credit to all of them. They came through, and they've done well. And certainly she has been a tremendous inspiration to me in my life, and I thank her very much. And thank you for having her on the program.
Thank you.
No, this wouldn't be the last time, Mr. McDonald. Don't worry.
Freddie, this is so beautiful. Let me tell you what
I think I'm seeing tears in Gildarie's eyes.
It could be. I'm looking at two people, right? I'm not crying. But what moves me here is that I'm seeing two lovebirds here. I'm seeing two icons. It cannot be Mr. McDonald alone. It cannot be Eon alone.
I agree with that.
It has to be the support, the lady that support. But also, it's important that this be a lesson to us here as a people of Guyana. This is not a show where you're going to have dramas like what you were going to see on social media. This is a very serious show. We have to pay tribute to the people that we have in Guyana while they're alive. Not after they're dead, we say good things about them. Right now, the Eon is 90. It's remarkable to me also that he can be here. His recollection of things very, very sharp. His reading very clear. His thought process very clear.
And a full head of hair.
Yeah, I was about to
A full head of hair.
but it's
Every 2
important,
weeks.
Freddie, and I must say that I really, really admire. I'm looking at them. I'm thinking about my parents. I'm thinking about people at this age here. There's so many things that we could talk about that is within this room at the moment. And look at what he's achieved, where he's been, what he's done. That, for me, I'm really, really proud of you guys. And it's good that we record this here now.
Thank you very much.
Mr. McDonald, just tell me to shut up. Mrs. McDonald, just tell me to shut up. And let's move on. Just say to me, Freddie, please move on. Can you tell us how you met?
Sugar industry. We both worked in the sugar industry.
Yes,
Ian will tell.
I was a director, and she was working as first of all at the sugar producers, and then she came to head office as a secretary, and she was offered the job of being secretary to the director, the marketing director, and I think at first she was a little doubtful about it. Freddie.
So you cheers, sir.
But she did,
tried.
and we met that way, and we met in the sugar industry, and one wonderful day for me. Wonderful day for me.
You saw this handsome guy trying to.
Ryan, yeah,
and you said,
No.
no, I gotta give this guy a chance, man.
No,
No,
the very opposite. The very opposite. I think she said, no. This guy, I think he's probably going to be too much to handle.
Yeah.
So she had her doubts about becoming my secretary, but she did, and and then we
had a
went
very
on from
platonic relationship as boss and secretary. That's the only way it could have worked in the office.
You heard that, right, Ian?
Yes, that's
No,
right.
it was no seriously.
Yes.
I behaved
serious.
myself very well.
Yes. People were saying all sorts of things about Ian, but he was a perfect boss. He was a perfect boss, and very humble and considerate and compassionate. He was a very good boss to everybody outside as well.
Freddie was also important. It's impossible to capture the life of our icons, especially somebody of Ian's magnitude, his work. How do you capture that within 1 hour? It's impossible. We apologize for that.
No, we have to. Mr. McDonald isn't going nowhere. Next year, there's a book on poetry. Yeah. This man is a machine. You look at this. This is only 27 I've counted here, and there's more coming. We're going to end, let's end on a romantic note.
You want to sing?
No, where was the honeymoon? Where was the wedding?
It was right at Lama Conservancy. They had again in Guyana.
Do you know where we spent our honeymoon?
Conservancy
and the Lama Conservancy guest house.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever been there. It's absolutely beautiful.
The Inn Grove.
Yes. Beautiful place.
Lovely
There's
place.
so many beautiful places in Guyana
you don't
that
have
people
to
don't
go
even know
anywhere.
about.
It's right here.
But there's a poem in that book. There's a poem in that book.
Struggle?
But we can end on that.
Well, I think, is it The Last Dance?
Mr. McDonald, could you force, bully Mary into reading a poem, please?
I doubt it. But,
grandchildren. And our love of our lives now are grandchildren.
Yes, the grandchildren.
Jacob and Zoe.
But I can read The Last Dance unless you would like to.
No, and that makes me sad.
That makes you sad?
It isn't really, no. No, it's, I'll read it pretty quickly.
Okay.
The Last Dance. It's the last poem in the book. It is long, long ago. 41 years to be precise. I am now very old. She seems young to me. But she isn't, I suppose. I remember the first time I realized something. Said to her at the party, I want the last dance. She said, yes, you can. I will always want the last dance, I said. And she smiled.
Wait a minute. I want this poem has some resemblance to two songs. One is by Engelbert Humperdinck. The Last Was.
Oh, really? Well,
remember that song by Engelbert?
But Freddie, if you want to talk about
the
music,
Drifters, Save the Last Dance for Me.
Yes,
but we love music. Ian and I share a garden. We have another life.
I insist on bringing up Neil Diamond.
Yeah.
Humperdinck.
Longfellow Serenade. You know that one?
I know Longfellow. But you like Sarah Brightman?
Yes,
I love her.
Yes,
we have
Brightman.
all her CDs.
Great. Do you know Sarah Brightman?
That's what we share.
Great.
Sarah Brightman, all her songs.
Well, my favorite song from her, he's a very, very poetic guy. And a lot of his columns are tragic reflections. Please listen to Winter in July by Sarah Brightman. It's very sad.
Really?
And very sad.
We like her. We like her.
Sarah Brightman.
Winter in July.
Winter in July.
It's a very philosophical song about don't worry about the pitfalls. Keep hoping.
I'll certainly read one. But Freddie,
go check out Winter in July.
Winter in July.
Yeah.
But both of you know Neil Diamond, do you?
I love Neil.
I have all his CDs.
We have all his CDs.
But one recent song.
You know The Last Picasso by him?
We discovered very recently, and I have never heard him sing it before, and it's one of the most wonderful songs. is called Dry Your Eyes.
Dry Your Eyes. When
Have you read
Martin
it?
Luther
Have you
King
heard it?
died.
No.
Oh.
When Martin Luther King
Please,
died,
when he died.
he sang that
Please
song.
read it.
Well, he
Dry
sang the
Your
song
Eyes.
He has a
before.
very distinctive voice.
But for people who have been married long, I've been married 45 years. And my wife and I love Neil Diamond. But here, if you love Neil Diamond, please listen to The Last Picasso. Just go on YouTube, and it's about a woman, it's about a man who finds his soulmate, his wife, indispensable.
Wow.
But I still have you, and I will have you when everything else
There's a
is
surreal
gone and
moment,
done
ladies and
with.
gentlemen.
I don't know this one.
No, I don't know this one.
Go and Google The Last Picasso.
Okay, well,
it's one of Lee Diamond's most beautiful songs.
But you must read Dry Your Eyes.
Yeah.
Dry Your Eyes.
Our operator has signaled that our time has come. Mr. McDonald, we have to do this again. And because of Mary's weight, positive weight in your iconic status, she has to be here again.
I think so. Yeah. Thank you very much.
We don't move it at each other.
This guy is shy, but I am seeing tears in his eye. Look at no.
No, you're singing bad tears to my eyes, Freddie Kissoon.
Well, both,
I was extremely moved by that.
If I can tell you, both of you, thank you very much indeed. I really have enjoyed this. I hope that you find it a program which gives some sort of credit to what you're doing, and I have to tell both you that both you are doing a wonderful job in this program.
Thanks. Call you Mary.
Yeah.
Now for the second time, I'm going to call this Ian.
Good.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Leonard.
Thank you very,
so
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.